Welcome back to the Daddy Ball Podcast. This is Jeff Moeller. Thanks for joining me again for another episode. And today we have another amazing guest, another guy from Catonsville who has really worked his way up through the program and found himself as the starting goalie for the University of Maryland Terps this year. You may have seen him on ESPN. He is the pride of Catonsville for sure. Really, really glad to have him on to tell his story, which I think is pretty inspirational and will help a lot of you parents out there who have kids who aspire maybe to follow in his footsteps. I want to welcome Brian Ruppel to the show. Brian, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Brian, I've known you for a really long time. I actually started knew your mom and dad first. Your dad is you come from an amazing family. Your dad and mom very, very much involved. Dad was a lacrosse official, one of the most respected in the area for sure. Actually probably one of the most respected officials in the country. Your mom's a longtime public educator. I actually coached with your mom. I lasted 1 year coaching girls basketball, and thankfully your mom your mom actually got me through that year. She was a great athlete. You have a sister who played high school sports, Stevie. I don't even know if it goes by. He's a grown man now, but I still call him Stevie. But Stevie was a great defenseman at Catonsville. Went on to play at Lynchburg. Just a hardworking, high character kid, just like you are. You come from an amazing, amazing family. How much did their support impact your success as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think I'm pretty blessed to come from a family like that. I mean, just started when I was young. Um, Always competition in the household. Obviously my mom was a big athlete. My dad, my brother. I always kind of I looked up to my brother a lot. And every sport he played, I wanted to play. So I'd go to his practices. I'd go to all the games my dad refed. Watching my sister play. Watching my mom like swim and stuff like that. It was just all inspiration to me. Kind of, that's when I knew I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to do all the sports I could possibly do. And I mean, luckily lacrosse with my dad playing in college and then reffing, and then obviously my brother playing high school, college. It just kind of came to me pretty naturally. And I was just always had people to look up to. So it kind of made it pretty easy for me.
Yeah, you definitely had a bunch of great role models, and I can tell you that your brother. I left coaching Catonsville, I think the year as he was coming in, but I was involved in some practices and things, and he was just always so coachable and just such a hard worker, and and I mean that's you can tell kids that were raised really well by their parents by how they're respecting coaches and listening and being coachable in their work ethic, and I think you and your brother are just like billboards for that, um so that's really awesome. How old were you when you decided that you wanted, like you really kind of knew that you wanted to play at a high level for lacrosse?
Mm. I guess it was when I was pretty young, I guess. I think just playing through like the Catonsville travel, stuff like that, and kind of played with that, played all my friends when I was younger. My dad was one of the coaches. Then we all of us started to get pretty good, and we obviously were pretty competitive with some of the higher level teams. And then the Rough Riders, which was a club team who I played for pretty much my whole life. My brother played for them, so that's a team that I always looked up to. And then I got a chance to play for them when I was probably middle school. And then
Okay.
once you kind of hit that level, I guess the club level is definitely when it jumps up a notch. So that's when, I mean, you got to really realize if this is what you want to do, because you spend a lot of time, a lot of effort in those practices and games. And I just loved every minute of it. I knew from when the start that I wanted to do this and continue to do this to the highest level, the best of my ability.
So middle school was when you made that jump to kind of like a higher level playing like Rough Riders was a higher level club team playing against, that's was the top level, I think, at the time. And so is that is middle school kind of that turning point for kids who are like, you know what, I want to go play in high school. I may want to play in college. Is that the time when they have to kind of start focusing of like to your point, like the commitment level?
Yeah, I think definitely. I would say around middle school. I mean, maybe it changes. I mean, I was also years back, so I think maybe
Right.
a lot of it's even younger now. But I think again, like just playing at a high level from when you're younger. Obviously, it's not like a full like all around the year type thing, but yeah, like the summertime, the springtime, it's a lot of like time, a lot of effort. So that's when
Yeah.
you really know if you really want to do it.
Yeah. Now you're a great athlete. We'll get into this a little bit later. I'm thinking if I'm coaching you as a kid, you're this great athlete. I'm not putting you in the goal, man. I'm like, like I'm like this kid can do. You're a great athlete. So why goalie, and when did that come on your radar of like, you know what, I want to be that crazy guy who's sitting in there facing 100-mile-an-hour shots, and when did you want to be? When did that come to like fruition for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess started playing with the Rough Riders, and I was always an attackman, always an offensive guy. It's my dad played in college, so he always had an offensive stick in my hand. I liked it a lot. I guess I don't know if we needed a goalie one day or something, but they kind of just threw me into the goal, and I just kind of did my best, and I liked it a lot. I thought the goalie stick was the coolest thing ever. I still remember the first goalie stick I ever had was like a Maryland print goalie stick. I still have it to this day, and it's like just like one of the coolest things I've ever thought. So I played goalie and attack like my whole like, for couple of years, even with the Rough Riders. And then I started to get better at goalie, and my coaches kept pushing me towards the goal, pushing me towards the goal. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess if I'm doing well, I might as well stick with it. And then it was definitely hard not running around the field. So that's kind of when during games and stuff, I do get a chance to get out of the goal a little bit, try to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's all the great goalies that I've ever known and had worked with or seen play. They're all really good athletes, and like at a youth sports, they used to like, it's actually like when they're young, you just try to find somebody who's willing to do it,
Yeah,
and
really.
try to develop them. Being a great athlete is certainly a bonus, for being a great goalie. I mean, I think, when you were probably seventh or eighth grade, I think it was, I did a couple fall ball practices that you came to, and it was, it's really fun watching an athlete, be in the cage, but it's hard. I give your coaches credit for pushing you that way because, usually those are the kids that they want putting the ball in the back of the net, not stopping the ball from going in the net.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty wild. Um, so, you were highly sought after athlete in middle school. You had come up through the Rough Riders. You, as Bill, you had some other kids that were really, really highly talented. And I know you were sought after by private schools because I had private school coaches calling me, and I wasn't even coaching at Catonsville anymore, asking me, "What do you think? What do we need to do?" And I'm like, I didn't even coach the kid. I just, they're asking me about you going to private school. They're asking me about Asbel going to private school. So you decide to stay home to go to. So you could have gone anywhere you wanted, nationally ranked private schools. You chose to stay home and start a legacy and kind of build something at Catonsville High School. What went into that decision for you?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a tough decision. I think obviously you see all the glamour and glitz of all these private schools, and I visited a few, and I mean, they're all obviously great schools, but I think what it came down to most was who would like what school would it mean most to like win? Would it mean most to do something special at? I knew, say it's like a big private school, like it would mean a lot more to me to bring home a championship to Catonsville, my home school that I've been around my entire life, the school my brother went to, school my mom teaches at. I just thought that would be the coolest thing to kind of hopefully put Catonsville back on the map. I think Coach K.R. Schultz, I think he actually came over to my house one night with a bunch of I think it was eighth graders at the time, and we were looking at different schools or whatever. And he just kind of told us his plan, told us what he kind of wanted from us, and we kind of bought into right there and then. I knew it was gonna be tough. I think my brother was also a huge inspiration for me because I saw him do it. I saw all the hard work he put in, and he kind of told me the whole time like, "You're gonna have to do more than every other kid,
Mm.
but at the college level, if you're good, they'll find you. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you play well, they'll find you." So I think just kind of those little things. I just really wanted to stay home, do for my town. I think it was pretty special doing that.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you what, man, you telling me, I didn't know that story about KR. So KR was, I'm trying to think, I think there was two coaches after me. So it was your brother played for I think the first coach after I left, maybe two. I don't know if there was. I don't know. Did your brother play for two coaches? Two?
I think it was just one.
Just one. Okay, so
I
there was
believe
another
so. Yeah.
one, and then KR took over, and he's done a phenomenal job. So one of my questions to you was actually going to be like, what role did he play? So I didn't know that he came to your house because
Yeah.
that's something that I did when I had the job. I was in living rooms trying to get kids not to go to Mount St. Joe, or trying to get them to come back to Catonsville. So that gives me chills to say, like, just to hear that story is awesome because that's exactly what it takes to keep kids like you and the other kids to Catonsville. And I don't know if you know this, but I know it. But your senior year, you guys broke the school record for most school wins by a team in Catonsville high school history. So yeah, so
I didn't
so
know that. Yeah.
I will because we had a couple teams that did really well, but you guys, you went to the state championship game. So what you saw it after to do, I think you won regional championships. You didn't win the state championship, but I think what you saw there, I thought what you wanted to do at Catonsville, you did. So I think you should be, really proud of that for sure. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
you know,
I think talking. I remember after we graduated too. I think the biggest thing we kind of talked about with KR was like the goal wasn't for us to do everything. It wasn't for us to like finish the job. It was for us to get something started. I think that was kind of the huge thing was just to get a
yeah,
pipeline started back to Catonsville, get the kids flowing back to Catonsville. I think KR kind of really showed us that we did a good job of that. And I mean, we're starting to get a lot more kids that are straying away from private schools and coming back to Catonsville. I think that's something really special to us when we see really top level kids staying home. Kind of just
yeah,
like means a lot to us. And he kind of says like that's because of you guys. It's because you guys started something special here. So
yeah.
pretty cool for sure.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, when you're talking about a program, because each sports program is, like it was lacrosse for Catonsville. That's different than any other sport. It just depends on who's running the show, and that was, I think, KR coming into your living room and you guys buying into it and staying and doing that speaks volumes. So getting off topic a little bit, but that I wanted to hear that story because my kids are in private school. I coached at Catonsville High School. I went to Catonsville High School. Our reasons for them going private are not that has nothing to do with Catonsville lacrosse or Catonsville High School,
Yeah.
but you guys staying home and giving the community something to really be proud of was something that was close to my heart because that's what I tried to do when I was there, and having talent like you and the other boys staying there too was super awesome. So great job doing that, man.
Thank you.
You were a 3-sport standout in high school. Like, I'm going to say it for you because you're such a nice kid and I know you won't say it. So I'm going to say it. You were the best athlete at Catonsville High School, probably for 2 or 3 years. You were a standout soccer player. You were a phenomenal basketball player. And obviously as a freshman, I think you were like, you might have been the leading scorer on varsity as a midfielder. I might be but you
I
scored a
think I
lot of
was
goals.
second. I think I was second. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Close,
you're,
close.
so you're, so because there was a senior goalie, and then you come in and you're obviously phenomenal goalie. So multi-sport athlete. How important is that, or was that for you, as far as you being a standout college athlete now?
I think it's huge. I think, especially starting when you're younger, I think it's so easy for kids these days just be told just do one sport and just get burnt out. I think just kind of having be able to switch it up on me, like playing soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then really being able to look forward to playing lacrosse and getting back on the field with my friends was always something really special. And I think just like all the team sports competition, just like doing all that with different like teams, meeting different guys. I mean, I met so many different people playing those sports and had so many memories, so many like great lessons that I've learned. I mean, I've been on some very good teams. I've been on some not great teams. I think you learn a lot from both the experiences. So I think just those playing all 3 sports was huge for me. And then obviously you got like footwork and stuff that transfers over very, very well. I just think the art of competition and just kind of getting that experience with many different guys is just huge. Very, very, very good for me.
Now you were a soccer goalie Point guard in basketball?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sensing a theme here, Brian. So you you were the goalie, which is, I'm not a soccer guy, but the goalie is kind of like you're the leader of that team. You know, you're kind of like the quarterback of that defense as a soccer goalie. And as the point guard, you're the point guard, you're running the show as a basketball player. And obviously as a lacrosse goalie, you're the quarterback of that defense. So I imagine that there's definitely some crossover in,
Yeah.
you know, in leadership as well, you know, from playing those three positions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was fun to watch you play all three in high school for sure. And I'm personally like, I love seeing it. I love seeing the multi-sport athlete succeed. And yeah, you crushed it at Catonsville for sure. So Maryland, you committed to them pretty quickly, right? I mean, it sounded like I think well, you were junior when you committed,
Yes, going into my junior year.
going into your junior year. Okay. So that's your dream. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was your dream school. Like you always wanted to go to Maryland.
Yeah,
Did they,
absolutely.
when they offered, were they the only school that offered, you know, or was it, or did you just commit so quick that nobody else even had a chance to, to come after you?
No, so I mean, it all kind of for the lacrosse rules. It's September 1st going into your junior year is when coaches can start to contact you, and um, I was pretty fortunate to have a lot of different coaches, different schools kind of reach out. I talked to Coach Tillman at 12 o'clock on September 1st. It was pretty surreal, and kind of went from there. And I think going into the process, obviously, I tried to have an open mind of kind of just listen to different coaches, seeing what was best for me. I think just talking to Coach Tillman, talking to other coaches, and just like hearing what they had to offer, it was just I knew from the jump it was a spot for me. And obviously, there was some great schools that I also looked into, and it was tough. It was a very tough decision, but I mean, I'm extremely happy with my decision for sure.
Yeah. Well, I bet. Was that, was that a nerve-wracking experience? So September 1st, I guess you're just hoping that the phone's going to start ringing, right? As an athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you, how nerve-wracking was that? You know, leading up to that point, did you know Maryland was going to call you, or were you just sitting there like, man, I hope that I see that right area code pop up on my phone?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because they can contact club and your club and like high school coaches leading up to it. So I had some good ideas that schools were probably going to reach out, but I mean, I really had no idea. You can think you know all you want. So I'm sitting with my dad in my living room at
Oh,
like 11:50, waiting for it at 12 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock hits, and it was just like mayhem, pretty much. So it was just like I was
mm,
just like my head was spinning. It was just like so much going on, and then it was also during COVID, so the process was really sped up kind of that year, especially for the
mm.
goalie position, because you couldn't go on campus to talk to schools. So it was definitely pretty crazy. So I tried to get as many calls and Zooms in as I could. And then I think it was September 7th, like a weekend to the whole process. So I committed to Maryland.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's great. And it's great. I love hearing that. Like I had Adam Kalarick on last week. Adam is, you know, was a World Series champ with the Dodgers, Catonsville kid too. He's not a kid, he's a grown man now. But anyhow, it's really cool hearing the stories about being with your family when you're going through these things, like being in a living room with your dad. You know, he was with his mom when he got drafted. So it's just awesome hearing, you know, family being there and how important that is. Um, yeah, and can share those awesome moments. So that's really cool, man. So you go to Maryland, you were a red shirt to start the season. Was that the plan all along when you went there? It was like, hey, we have some upperclassmen, Brian, we're gonna redshirt you, or was that a decision that was made a little bit later? Was that surprising to you?
No, I mean, it was kind of going into the year. Obviously, we had a great goalie, Logan McNaney, who just won most extended player in the national championship game. He was coming back for his junior year. And they kind of talked to me about it a little bit and kind of, they were obviously like, we're going to go into the season with an open mind, but if Logan's going to be the starter, then it just kind of makes sense to preserve a year of eligibility. So going into the fall, that's kind of what they told me. Even going into the spring, they're like, yeah, we're going to try to redshirt you and kind of see what happens and go from there.
Okay, cool. So that's how it starts. So I'm not expecting much as a fan. I'm not expecting much at all as far as hearing your name in the cage. And I'm coming home. This is a true story. I'm coming home from one of my son's Brooks's lacrosse games, and I get a text from Nico Guernsey, who played for me at Catonsville High School. And he texted me, he said, "Please tell me you're watching the Maryland game." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Please tell me you're watching." I was like, "I just got home. What's going on?" He's like, "Ruppel just made 3 saves on his head. It's ridiculous. It's going to be on all over ESPN." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So I turn it on. I see the highlights. I'm like, "Well, I guess he's not redshirting anymore. I guess I guess he's playing." So unfortunate situation with the goalie in front of you. That's, we never would like to see that happen. But that provided an opportunity, Brian. I got to be honest, man. You're a freshman. How do you mentally get ready for that? You think you're not playing, you think you're redshirting, and you mentally prepare yourself to go out for your dream school that you've always wanted to play for as a freshman, and then perform at the highest of levels. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough. I think obviously seeing Logan go down was hard as in its own. And then we kind of had a week to prepare for Syracuse. But pretty much the whole year was like guys were always telling me kind of prepare like you're a starter because you never know what can happen. And I was told that high school, college, pretty much my entire life, and it was kind of something I came into college kind of planning on doing, just always preparing like a starter. And then didn't play versus Syracuse, and then I got the nod versus Princeton my first game, and it was definitely you have nerves flowing. You're like, wow, like this is real. Um, but just having my teammates have my back, they're all telling me like we believe in you, we trust you. We're playing for you, we're playing in front of you. Just like super, super comforting for me. And then kind of you make a couple saves early, and then just kind of like try to treat it like another game.
Right.
You practice so many times. Kind of my coaches said all the time, like this is just another practice. Like you've done this your entire life. It's nothing new. Um, so it's definitely obviously look out a lot more fans in the stands, especially in some of the games. A little crazy at times, but just kind of tried to do what I've kind of been taught and what I train to do pretty much every day. So yeah.
Well, being mentally prepared to go in when you're like, you make it sound so easy. Like that's one of the hardest things to do is to mentally keep your head in the game and prepare to play when you're not, and you're not expected to go in. So the fact that you were able to do that is incredible. And that's high athlete. That's a high athlete. That's something that high athletes really do well. And it's really, really hard. Um, after was it after the first save, like the first shot that comes on you, once that first shot came to you, is that when you were like, all right, I'm good? Did it take, or were you like, how quickly did you settle in to say, okay, let me go do what I do?
Yeah, I think after probably the first two shots I saw, especially against Princeton, I was pretty lucky to have a pretty good start that game. Made a couple saves, cleared the ball a few times, had the ball on my stick, and I was just like, "This is just another lacrosse game. This is
Yeah.
nothing crazy. Just go out there, do what I do." And that kind of just set me up for the rest of the season. I just kind of gave me confidence to know that I've done this my whole life. Just do what you do, time kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what it looked like from watching you on TV. It's like you're in your comfort place, like you're in your comfort zone. Like this is where I belong. This is what I do, and that's really cool, man. It's a great. I mean, your story is a great story. I mean, from being a local kid to growing up to working really, really hard and dedicating yourself, and like you said, you had your family support the whole time. It's just an awesome story to go in as a freshman and to have. I mean, I can tell you that you had a lot of people locally that were just really pulling for you, and we're just so proud of everything you did this year. And so that's, you've brought a lot of joy to Catonsville. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that what you sought after to do when you said no to some of the bigger private schools and to stay home, I think what you sought after to do in that moment, you did it, and you continue to do it as a high level college goalie. So my hat's off to you, man. That's not an easy thing to do, but I know I never got a chance to coach you, but I know I'm a proud Catonsville guy. Just proud that you're a 2-1-2-2-8er representing, man. I think you did a really good job with all of
Thank you.
it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Um, you've always been great in the community. Um, you've always, even before you were in college, you would come help out with the rec teams. You came out and helped out with my son's team. Ironically, that's like a trivia question of where were you when you found out that Kobe Bryant passed away? I was with Brian Ruppel.
Oh yeah.
We're getting in my car after I'm driving you home after one of Brooks's practice, and you're like, Kobe Bryant just died. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
yeah. But you've always been just so generous with your time, helping out, passing it on, right? You're continuing to like feed that pipeline in Catonsville. And now, I saw you at a practice last week, and that was a couple days after your season got over. I'm like, I was surprised to see you. I thought he was still in school, but you immediately jumped right back into helping the community. Um, that's awesome. That speaks to your character. And that's really awesome that you do that. You're now starting to, you're going to start training some goalies, I think, right? So talk
Yeah.
about that, man. And how can parents hire you to work with their keepers over the summer?
Yeah. So I'm doing like a one-on-one goalie individuals training sessions pretty much all summer. It's kind of my gig. So I post something on Facebook. Then you can also reach out via email. My email is brian.ruppel33@gmail.com. I'll be doing sessions all summer long. Reach out obviously if you have any interest to get more details. But excited just kind of pass the knowledge I've kind of learned on to the next generation. Kind of hope help guys as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So all the parents that are out there listening, here's my advice, because I have kids and I try to get them help with coaches and whatnot. Brian not only obviously knows a great deal on how to play goalie, more than most of the population, but he's also the type of person that you want working with your kid. So, sports isn't only about finding somebody who's knowledgeable, because you're going to find a lot of people who are knowledgeable but don't know how to relate to kids. If you ever see Brian at a rec practice and you see the kids swarming around him, he knows how to relate to kids. And when you know how to relate to kids, you tend to get the most out of them. They're going to listen. They're going to soak up everything that he is telling them. And it is well worth your investment. You're going to get knowledge. You're also going to get some character development that maybe you didn't think you were going to get. So please, if your son wants to be a goalie, Brian, I would even say if somebody wants to, like, you're a goalie, you can probably help kids that want to learn how to shoot a little bit too, right? I mean,
Yeah, I've
better than
actually
anybody what's hard to save, right?
yeah, I've actually been doing some midfield attack lessons as well. So I'm
Yeah.
really doing anything that I'm trying to help in any way possible, pretty much.
Yeah. So if you got a kid out there who plays lacrosse, you need to get to Brian. I'll put the information in the show notes so you can reach out to him. Highly recommend that you do that. You won't find a better kid. And he's been there, done that for sure. Brian, last question, man. What is the best piece of advice that you've received as an athlete? It's a two-part question. And what advice would you give a kid who wants to play at a high level?
I think the best advice I've heard is just it's not an accident, things happen. It comes back to all the work you put in. Things just don't come into fruition. You have to really put in a lot of time and effort. And the more time and effort you put in, the better you're going to do. And things just things work themselves out if you're going to put in the time and effort, I guess. I've kind of played through that my entire life with everything I do, school, lacrosse related. It's all about what you put in is what you're going to get out. If you don't put much time and effort in, you're really not going to become that much better of a player, a person. So I think just really working hard, everything you do, always act like somebody's watching you. No matter if you're out on a field by yourself, if there's 100 coaches around you, your whole team's around you, act the same way, play the same way every time you step on a field.
That's awesome. Now, did you have a trouble when you're coming up? people hating on you, or did you have an issue like comparing yourself to maybe some other high level goalies? Of like, did you ever get caught up into that, or did you, like Adam Clare last week talked about having blinders on, of like, just, hey, stick to the process? Were you able to do that, or did you get caught up, because parents and kids these days get caught up into especially with social media, they get caught up in the comparison game of like, well, this kid's doing that, or that kid's doing this, or it kind of distracts them. Were you able to kind of stay away from that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like just the game of lacrosse, there's always rankings and stuff coming out, and obviously you look into it, and when you see your name, you're like, "Oh, that's awesome," and you look into it a lot. But the older I get and the older everybody gets, you look at it back and it's just like it doesn't matter at all. Like I wish I would have known that even more when I was younger, but none of
Yes.
that stuff matters. It's not like the coaches are making those rankings. It's like guys that just watch lacrosse or watch sports. I mean,
Right.
none of that stuff matters one bit. Once you get on college, nobody cares if you were a 5 star, 0 star.
Mm.
Nothing matters. Like stuff like that. So that's another thing. Don't look into that. Obviously, it's cool to see your name and stars around it or whatever, but it really does not matter that much, especially at the next level.
That's awesome, man. That's, again, you've been there, done that. That's great advice for all of our young athletes. Well, Brian, thanks for joining me. Guys, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, obviously on on Spotify and Apple for the podcast. But Brian, you're a busy man. You just got done a big season. You're going to be training a lot of kids this summer. I really appreciate you taking the time for joining me today. And I think parents and kids are gonna love it, man. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All
It's a
right,
lot of
Brian.
fun.
Thanks, man. Have a
All
good
right.
day.